Hello, you're very welcome to today's SenseHub refresher training. My name is Heffernan and I'm Technical and Customer Support Manager covering the Southeast country. Today, within this training, I will cover the areas of the reproduction module and our integrated all-flex drafting gate. So within our SenseHub reproduction module, you'll see I have a number of screenshots here on my screen from the mobile app, which both represent what is on the computer desktop version also. So if we look here in the reports on the left-hand side of the screen, I have animals in heat, anestrus cows, irregular heats, suspected for abortion, pregnancy probability, expected calf and dry off, and fertility summary. So I'll touch on a number of these areas within this presentation and go into depth within. As you see here in the middle screen, I have what is the SenseHub dashboard. So this is what you see when you open your SenseHub app. So you see your animals in heat and your animals to inspect. And in this case, cows in distress. John would have alluded to how to add these additional reports onto your home screen for which ones are relevant at each time of the year. So I'm going to start off by touching on the animals in heat list in terms of reproduction. So we see here are your animals in heat. So once you tap on your animals in heat, it will open a screen, which I have here on the right-hand side, which is your animals in heat list. And you will have your sex semen bar and your conventional bar and the list of animals that are in heat at this minute in time. So in terms of reproduction, what is it that's happening in the background of our systems that's identifying an animal in heat? And those measures are a change in rumination, an increase in activity, and a change of eating. So if we look here at this graph on my screen, this is really what's happening in the background. So this represents the heat behavior on the desktop version, which is just a larger version of what we see in our mobiles. But this is what's happening in the background. And you're not expected to see this or look at this for every single animal, but it is here, and I want to just explain what it is and how it works. So if we look at this cow here, cow 1664, for example, so we have, here she is, cow 1664, she's 33 days in milk, so we're still quite early in her lactation, and we see her breeding window here. So with the breeding window, we have the top bar identifies the optimum time for sex semen, and the bottom bar identifies the optimum time for conventional semen. So if we look here at this cow, my graph in the background, we see the drop of rumination, the increase of activity, and the change of eating. All of this is what's causing the animal in heat. All of this is what's identifying our animals in heat, our heat index, which this lady here is at 87. And all of this is what's identifying the optimum time for the breeding window. So typically it's very normal to see an animal jumping in the field or jumping in the yard and her not to be on your screen yet. And simply because the animal is still active, the animal is not ready to be inseminated. No AI technician or farmer wants a cow that is still active. They want the cow once the activity has come off her and if she is ready for optimum ovulation time. So that's what these green bars here mean. This black triangle is the arm on the clock. So the cow is jumping. Her activity will decrease. She will then come onto your home screen, your animals in heat list, and her triangle will move generally simultaneously hour by hour along this graph. And you want to, for sex semen, you want to try get this black triangle in line with the top green. So you want to get it in for green for sex semen, and in the bottom you have quite a lot of time in terms of conventional semen. So if the black triangle is in the first yellow, the green, or the second yellow, this cow is eligible for conventional semen, as conventional semen lives for longer. So that's your area on breeding window. In terms of your heat index, as I mentioned, all of what happens in the background indicates your heat index. So my rule of thumb always is any heat index above 85, I wouldn't think twice about AI in the cow, I'd pick the heat index number, and I would then pick anything over 85. I'd pick my number over 85, and all cows over 85, and from there I would select the optimum time on the breeding window. Anything under 85, I touch the cow's graph, touch her number here in this animals in heat list, and it will open up this graph which I have in the background. On your phone, you can zoom in and out like a picture, and on your phone you can zoom in and out as well. So really what you're looking for when a heat index is below 85 is, first of all, ask yourself, has there been any management change in the last 24 hours or 48 hours that may have caused, you know, a behavioral change within the system, whether, you know, they ran out of, if water was off, if they took off down the road, anything that would really indicate a large increase in activity. If there has been, you know, it'll be fairly evident. If you're stuck, of course, you can feel free to ask myself or any of our team to help you out. But really what you're looking for is, for me anyway, I always look at the real rise in activity, because during the months of May, June and July, diets can fluctuate. So rumination can also be very variable. So although it is you know, it's a key indicator, your activity is the one that I look at on any of the ones that I'm in doubt. But please note, you should only be seeing maybe 2-3% of cows that are under the 85 heat index. If you're seeing large numbers of them, please feel free to reach out to us. So with your animals in heat, we also have, as you see circled here on my graph, the sperm symbol at the top of the screen. So John would have alluded to the settings in the background and your voluntary waiting period. So your voluntary waiting period is the number of the days in milk, over a number of days in milk which you would like to AI a cow. It doesn't mean that the cow won't be in your original list, but some people find themselves pressing this button and seeing the 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 and wondering what's happened or where are their cows gone. So when you press this button, so say for example, I have my voluntary waiting period set for 30 days or 40 days, that means the cow will still be here. Her status might be an egg timer as opposed to a rocket. Rocket is ready, and it just means when I tap that, it will remove any cows under the 30 days voluntary waiting period, and it will also remove any animals that are dry cows, and it will also remove any animals that have been AI'd in the last 24 hours. So these would be animals that the inseminations would have been put in through on the handheld, went through to ICBF and synced into SenseHub. So just in case you do press it and you're unsure of where your animals are gone. There's also a very useful tip on your phone app. If you turn off the rotation, or if you turn off the portrait version of your phone in this report, you turn your phone sideways and you will have a lot more information. It'll show you when the cow was last inseminated, when the cow had her last heat. And so it's very useful during the breeding season when you're trying to pick out cows that haven't been AI'd yet. In terms of the other reports that are within the reproduction module, we have the anestrus cows report and irregular heats. So these two reports are very relevant now, pre-breeding. So essentially, these are your pre-breeding reports. So your anestrus cows report, anestrus report identifies any animals that are over 50 days calved that have not had a heat. But please note that any collars must be on cows for 30 days in order for this report to populate. You can pull out all cows in the background that have had heats on the desktop version, and if you wish to do so or have any questions on that, please feel free to ask. Just to note as well with anestrus cow report, some days you might see 9 cows in there, like this report for example, and then tomorrow you might see 8 or 7 cows. And the reason for that is once the cow has a heat, she'll actually leave this list. So she doesn't need to be treated or examined. She's just obviously come into heat herself. And likewise, you may look at the report and see more cows on this report. It is quite normal to see 10 to 15% of your cows within this report. and once they're handled or treated, as I said, they will leave the list. So you don't actually have to do anything with this list. Unfortunately, there's no way to adjust the days in milk in the back end of this, that it is 50 days since a cow calved, or if the cow has had one heat, for example, a cow had a heat at 17 days, it'll be 30 days thereafter. So then we move on to your irregular heats. So the irregular heats generally indicate animals who are maybe cystic. So it's 3 or more heats within 30 days. So again, these reports, I think they kind of work simultaneously. These are the reports you need to watch out for and throughout the season. So ideally, you'd look at these now, treat the animals accordingly with your vet, or get them scanned and treated. And then have a look at them again in another couple of weeks when more cows come in. So this is hugely beneficial in the sense that these animals can be treated accordingly and potentially brought into your system and AI'd and potentially hold to your first service. So again, there's nothing you need to do with these animals. They will come and go as they are treated and issues are resolved. The additional reports within our module as well, we have suspected for abortion. So suspected for abortion will come later in the year. Really what they say is it's cows that are marked as pregnant that are showing signs of heat. Now, it's a very important figure to remember as you go through your breeding season and come towards the end of your breeding season, that 7% of pregnant animals show signs of heat. So there is going to be naturally a number of animals in here, as I'm sure you're aware of that yourself from ever before having SenseHub, that you see animals jumping and they are pregnant. So animals can come in here, as it doesn't really mean that the animal has had an abortion. It just means she's having a heat. Keep an eye on her, and if you feel you want to get her scanned along the way, it's an option to do so. With the fertility summary is a gather of 180 days information of breeding information, really. It's quite useful, and John will have alluded to the area of which you can turn this on in the background in the settings. And again, 180 days information will provide this report to be available. Just a quick tip on creating groups. So I know many users are using sex semen in their breeding season. So just a quick tip on creating a group and making the cows that you pick out for sex semen a little bit easier. So for example, if you see here, I have cow 1657, and beside her is the word default. So that means that this cow is in the default group. So what I recommend is, if you want to gather the cows yourselves, for the ones you want to use sex semen on, create a group. So you can do this on your phone or you can do it on the desktop version. It's probably a little bit quicker on the desktop version, but it's simple enough to do it on your phone too. So you go into group list, create a group. So we see here I've created sex semen group 2. Make sure you do not change your heat index threshold. So back on my first slide, I would have shown you, the 85 and above. The heat index threshold ranges from 50 to 100. So there's no reason to change this. So I highly recommend you don't change this. And you can press save. Then when you go into your animal list, you can swipe left and add these cows into this group. So it just means that when you're looking at your phone during the breeding season, that you can clearly identify quickly, this lady's for sex semen. That means I'm going to wait for her triangle to move further on. So as we see, this lady 1664, she's optimum right now for sex semen. So therefore you'd know from her status or her group that she's for sex semen. So it's a quite useful tip. Just so that you're not looking at a million sheets and different things a lot during the breeding season. It just streamlines things. Okay, so then we move on to the Alltech sorting gate. So just a quick few tips on this. So I suppose for those maybe who don't have an all-flex sorting gate, our all-flex sorting gate is fully compatible with our collars. We have a sorting gate that can be read off collars, but we also have an all-flex sorting gate that is EID. So I suppose just to show you a few tips and functions of it. So you can quick sort animals anywhere you are. It doesn't matter, you don't have to be in the farm, you can be anywhere. So quick sort, you go into search the animal's number. So in this case, number 35, you tap the three dots in the right hand corner and you tap quick sort. This then means that the cow is going to draft into whatever has been set as your default pen the next time she passes. So generally I've advised using quick sort, if you have maybe 5 or less cows that you just want for this evening the next time they pass, or for foot bath, or whatever way it is. So that's your quick sort function. We then have your sorting scheduler. So this will be a bit more for scheduling, let's say hoof pairing, fresh cows, or even I suppose coming into the breeding season now, your animals for the animals that you want to draft for insemination. So we have the midnight to midday, so that's what we call shift 1, and midday to midnight is called shift 2. So you can see here, you can sort by a number of reports here. So you can sort by animals. So that means if you want to pick out any individual animals, so it's quite easy to go. If you click animals, you can then add a list of animals. We have groups, so it's back to what I was explaining about sex semen groups. So you could create any other groups if you wish, and you can sort by groups. The report is the one now for animals in heat. If you press report, you will be able to pick out your animals in heat, your anestrus cows, your irregular heats, so any of the reports within the system, or even the animals in distress, you can draft off report. But for animals in heat, you would go in there to report and click animals in heat. You can then repeat the event for as long as you want, morning and evening, or just morning or just evening. And you can repeat it for as long as you want. So at this, just maybe a week or two before your breeding season, for those who are using gates, I'd advise turn on your animals in heat for draft to ensure everything is working in advance of the breeding season and everything is okay. And then finally, you have unidentified animals. So unidentified animals drafts out cows that actually don't have collars. Now, the gate becomes very, very sensitive. So if you do end up getting a cow with a collar, don't panic. It doesn't mean your collar is broken or anything. It just means she probably shoved her way in under another cow and I thought there was no collar there. Then finally, we have your sorting report. So this is the report of cows that have been scheduled and drafted. So we see here there are 19 fresh cows. So green, there's 3 limit switches on the sorting gate, one on each. Well, if the gate is 3-way, there's one on each gate, one in the middle, and one on each gate left and right. Once the drafting gate triggers this limit switch, this is what identifies the animal to come in here, or to come into this list, and come green, orange, or grey. So grey means the cow did not pass the gate, and in this case, I know the cow she was actually in a sick group, so she did not actually pass the gate that day. So grey means scheduled and means she didn't pass yet. Green means drafted, and orange means it's unsure. Generally, when you see an orange, it's either one of two things: the cow is bulldozed through, and there may have been a cause of an accident going to happen, so left her go. Or, to be honest, 9 times out of 10, an orange means the cow she went into the drafting pen, but the cow behind her was coming quite quick and close, so the gate just about opened, left her out, and didn't actually trigger the switch. So that's what the different colors mean in your sorting report. So that takes me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for joining, and please feel free to reach out to myself or any of our team if you ever have any questions.
Hello and welcome everybody. everybody to this version of our SenseHub refresher training. My name is John Graham and I am Technical and Customer Success Manager for the northern part of the country. Today I am going to focus on the health side of SenseHub. I know that the majority of people will make the investment in our system purely for reproduction purposes, but we wish to share the benefits of the health side of that system, because what you're doing when you're focusing on that is extending the value of your system throughout that animal's entire lactation, and it does have a massive benefit for you, your animals, and your business. So what we will do is first and foremost take you through your system access and setup, how to get logged in on various platforms. I will then move on to the health side of SenseHub, as I've said, and then we will take you through some simple troubleshooting steps if indeed you have any issues logging in on the lead up to your breeding season. So accessing your system, this can be done via your PC platform or your mobile app. To access on your PC, you can use Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. If you use the web address as presented in the center of my screen, st.scrdairy.com, this will take you to the login page, which you can then see on the bottom right-hand side of my screen. All you have to do here is enter your email as your username, your password, and your farm ID, the exact same details that you use to log in to your phone app. This is only required if you're connected to a different internet network. So this means that you can access your system on a PC from anywhere in the world, and it will let you view what is happening back home. If you're connected to the same network as SenseHub, you can use your web app, which will provide a desktop icon on your PC, or indeed your system's IP address via Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. What I mean by this is every router, every internet supply will provide SenseHub with an IP address, and if we type this in to your search bar, you then have a local connection on your network. For mobile use, we support Android and iPhone. So either using Google Play or the App Store, you can download AllFlex SenseHub. This will provide the icon or logo, as you can see on the left-hand side of my screen. And once downloaded and opened, you're presented with the screenshot that you can see right in the center, and enter your username, email address, password, and farm ID, as we've discussed before. So setting up your system, usually we will make sure that this is done at the time of install, but your background settings and the way that you want your notifications and your voluntary waiting period set up, all of this must be done on your PC platform. So what I have done here is taken a screenshot of where we may have to go to do certain things. At the bottom right of our screen, you can see I have highlighted the language. It's always set to English US, but sometimes this can present our date format as months, days, years, rather than what we're used to as days, months, years. So if you change that to the English UK language, that will allow your dates to be presented in a much more readable format. What you're looking at here, right and left on my screen, is the desktop platform and also the phone app. So this is representative of your system dashboard, and once you do log in, this is what you'll be presented with on either platform. Over on the far right, left-hand side, of my screen, you will see I have also highlighted the farm icon. This is where we will then move to change our settings. And down at the bottom left of the system, you can see that the gear wheel or cog, that is where we can go to add additional users to our system, which allows everyone who's involved with your business access the system, update events, and make their own judgment, and also receive these alerts that we will configure. So as I said before, to change our settings, we go to the farm on the far left of our dashboard screen. Across the top, we then choose settings and then notifications. You will see here that we can be notified in 3 different formats, either email, text message, or push notification. We have alerts for animal distress, pre and post calving distress, new animal in heat, animal to inspect, group routine on the premium application, and a new critical battery alert which applies to the ear tag only at the moment. You can see by the selection on the right hand side of that picture that anything that is blue is selected. So this is where you can pick and choose and set up your system the way that you wish to receive your own alerts. Just remember that if you are choosing SMS text, anyone who wishes to receive these must be added to the system as an additional user with their phone number registered. Otherwise, there's no way for them to receive. Any changes that you do make, just hit the save icon that will appear in that top blue bar once you are finished. To create groups, which can be an important part of SenseHub, we also go to the farm, across the top of your screen to groups, and then the plus in that blue circle. This will allow us to create an additional group for, I have done an example here for animals that are maybe non-cycling. Some of you may have already noticed that your heat index threshold as standard is set to a figure of 50. This will allow you to adjust that, make that a bit lower, and increase the sensitivity in order to pick up animals that may be showing quieter levels of heat behaviour. Now, if we want to add additional users as described before, we select that gear wheel down on the bottom left hand side, we choose account, and then we select users. What we do here is add an additional user, enter their email address, choose their role. I always recommend choosing farm manager if they are involved in a farm business and you want them to have the same access as you will have as the admin account. Set your language. Again, always choose English UK because this will configure the date format that you will receive your alerts in. Once we hit apply, that email address and that user will receive an invite to join SenseHub. It will provide a link for them to either go to the App Store or Play Store, download the system. They will then be asked to enter their mobile number and enter their name and password. It's very important when you are entering your mobile number to put in the international area code, be that 00353, so on and so forth, because it's only once these numbers are entered that that text message can be received. Into your reproduction settings of your system, we go back to the farm, across to settings, and this will allow us to change the use of sex semen or conventional. Now, some of you may have noticed that you will have as standard a single line for the breeding window. If you wish to use sex semen, the timing for service is slightly different with that. So by selecting that toggle and once again hitting that save icon that will appear as before, you can then have a duplicated breeding window line, and that will dictate conventional and also sex semen. So you may find that useful. So customizing your dashboard, it's very important that once you get logged into your system and into your phone, that you're actually seeing the information that you want to see. So the way SenseHub has been designed, it's a very user-friendly platform, and the mobile app has been designed in such a way so that within 10 seconds of you opening this up, you will know where you need to divert your attention. You can see here on the screenshot on the left, today we have 8 animals in heat, we have 1 animal to inspect, and there are 19 early fresh cows. Now, I will take you through some of these reports as we go forward, but what we can do to make sure that we have any interesting reports to ourselves on our dashboard presenting the number of animals in each category, we have to go to the 3 lines at the top left-hand side of our system. Then we select reports. You can see all the other options that we have once we select that as well. If we choose reports, then in my instance, I'm going to health because that's what we're focusing on today. If you hold your thumb on any report that doesn't have a star, you'll notice there that the ones that do have a star are presented on that dashboard on the left. Whereas if we wish to add reports or take them away, if you slide your thumb to the left whilst holding every report, a star will appear as on the right-hand side. Once that star is selected, that will then be saved and added to your system dashboard as a favourite report for future reference. SenseHub health reporting. We have two different types of health within our system. We have animals to inspect and we have animal in distress. Both of these are very different alerts, and hopefully I'll explain that a bit better for you now. So really what your system is doing is looking at your animals based on a 10-day average. And when that animal deviates from her normal, that's whenever we'll start to get alerts. So animals to inspect is an early indication of change. And you can see here on the right-hand side, we have inclusion in our health report. These are our health indexes. So the perfect cow, if you can imagine, will have a health index of 100. Her rumination will be high and everything will be floating along nicely on a flat line. Whenever that rumination starts to change and other parameters in the background, that health index has the potential to drop. When it crosses that line of 86, that animal's eligible to be in that inspection report. But this doesn't necessarily mean that this animal's unwell. It just means that her daily routine is not normal compared to what she's used to. And as you all know, animals like consistency. So this is something that you will see at times of diet changes, whether you're opening a new silo pit, changing from first cut to second cut. Whenever cows go to grass, it drastically changes their intakes, their fibre content, the length of time they have to graze and forage, and therefore the amount of cutting and ruminating that they will perform in a day. So my advice to you all is don't worry too much when you see animals enter this report. You'll notice there just below that figure of 86, we have a marked health issue of 76. Now what that means is that when an animal drops below that figure, this will actually be stored within her animal events to tell you that she has had a health issue. When your animals are in range of your controller, the calculation for this health index occurs hourly. So if you're checking an animal in the morning and she's appeared in the report at 85.9, which she'll be eligible to be there, if that animal is on a downward trend over the next few hours or at your evening milking, you then can divert some attention to her. If they linger in this report and remain there for too long, because in 2 or 3 days, their routine should adjust to any changes. But if they don't, then they're obviously suffering. And this is a way for you to mark and measure that. And obviously we want to get them back to normal, back towards that figure of 100, because that's where they'll be producing the most for you. We can see here right in the middle of the screen, I have taken a screenshot of our animals to inspect report, and you can see there that the health index that's delivered is 78.3. So it's a good measure. If you can get used to these figures, you might have a bit of an idea as to how unwell this animal is. And of course, you always have that option to select that animal's number, be it on your phone or your PC, and go in and take a look at her graph and just see how many minutes of rumination per day she's performing and what stage she's at in her lactation. We can see here at the very bottom of the screen, I have circled distress. So this is a different type of alert and a much more severe change in that animal's behavior. We can see that previously this animal had a system health below that 76 threshold. So we can see how it is marked on her events with a health index of 68. And above, if we go back to that circled portion, we have the duration that animal is in this distress state. So currently with this cow, she's been in this state for 11 hours and 20 minutes. So what does all these figures mean? Really, your animal should be ruminating roughly 9 or 10 hours per day. So that is giving us an approximate level of rumination of 540 to 600 minutes per day. If we look at the graph, you can see that on the left-hand scale. And if you hover your cursor on your PC platform anywhere along that graph, you will see the figures at the top for daily rumination, daily eating. They will change according to the position, date, and time. Now, this particular animal is a dry cow that we have as an example. We can see here that I have also selected a 30-day window, so we're looking at a monthly period. So every vertical line that you can see currently on this graph is indicative of a week. What we can do is add additional features to this graph by selecting the arrow on the right-hand side of our screen. Now, this can be done on your phone app as well. You can see those three lines that I have circled in red at the top side of the phone screen. We can also select hourly eating and hourly rumination. Now, what this will do is provide what that animal is doing each and every hour. So it gives us a better handle on the severity of any change and, of course, that return to normal. You can see with this animal 799, in her example, she has had 2 bouts of distress and the rumination has dropped by more than half. She never really recovered and she's a lot worse on the second occasion of distress, and you can see how the system has highlighted that and marked that for attention. So here she is zoomed in. So now what we have to do in order to see this level of detail in our graph is zoom in to at least 3 days. So what we're doing here at the moment is looking at a 3-day window on our PC platform. If you use your finger and thumb on your mobile app, you can then zoom in and eventually those bars will appear. So what they actually represent is the portion of every hour using the 60-minute scale on your right-hand side of your screen. The bars are indicative of what that animal is doing in terms of rumination and physical eating every hour of every day. So what you'll notice here, if you're used to looking at a healthy animal, they will have fairly high peaks. They'll be very consistent, and cows will ruminate or eat every hour of every day. And we can see that plainly. Now, what you'll notice here with this animal is that before her rumination on average has dropped, you can see gaps are starting to form. And how SenseHub works is that if an animal loses 50 minutes a day for 3 consecutive days, which would take her from potentially 600 to 450, which is about 75% of her expected rumination, that is led into a distress alert. Alternatively, if she drops rapidly, which you can see in this example, after a period of approximately 8 hours, your system will alert you to the fact that this animal has not been eaten and is in fact in a distress state. And you'll notice here that what I have done is taken a screenshot of the mobile app and the PC platform at the exact same position. So you can see that health event, you can see the rumination drop, and those bars that correspond to what this animal is doing. You'll notice there that I have added a threshold line. This isn't visible on your graph, but it's just here to note that where this animal is currently with her level of rumination. We're saying that she should have a 600 minutes expected rumination per day, and currently she's only running at 100. So really this animal isn't well. Now, what SenseHub has proved is that the subtle changes that we may not see with the naked eye, SenseHub will see. So between half a day to a day and a half earlier than you can clinically diagnose a health issue, SenseHub will be alerting you to the fact that that animal is not well. And really what we want to do and achieve with this type of report is a rapid response and a return to normal, because it's only there that this animal is at her most productive. It has also been proven that a dry cow, as in this example, if they show a pre-calving distress, they're much more likely to go down with some sort of disorder post-calving. So it's definitely worthwhile monitoring these and paying attention to what they're doing. SenseHub health reporting continued. We have an example here on your screen of your early fresh cows. Now, what this means is that every animal that is fresh calved will enter this report for 30 days. We can extend that if you wish, but generally we want to monitor them during their transition period. And this is also available on the phone. If you can remember back to the beginning, I had this starred as a favorite on the desktop, so we can see a list of these animals directly on our mobile phone if you want to monitor them. Some of these particular animals in this example don't have collars on. The first one, the third one from the top, they don't have any figures presented. But what we want to use this report for is to monitor our transition cow, see how well and how quickly she's coming to appetite, and monitor that health index. So you can see that the earliest animal that we're showing here is 16 days in milk, and that's running through to the bottom of the list at 25. So we have from 0 days calve until 30. Again, your target rumination is 600 and your target health index is 100. Not every animal will reach this, but again, if you're now familiar with your health index and your animal to inspect report, if they're above that threshold of 86, that the animals are generally well enough. For those of you who have the premium application, I know that a lot of you have the advanced application, which allows reporting of fertility and health. There is an additional package, an additional application, which can be added at any time if you wish. Some of you may have noticed that there has been a trial, a free trial for you to try this out after installation. And what it does is, rather than monitoring every animal individually, as we are doing and we're familiar with, this gives you an opportunity to create groups within your system and monitor change according to those groups as a whole. I've just shown you one quick example here just to let you know that it's available. What we're looking at here is the group routine for rumination. You can see the average as the grey line, the purple line is the animal's current, or that group's current rumination, and we also have the greyed out area as the upper and lower boundary. So this is the highest level ruminating cow within the group and the lowest ruminating level in that group. So what this system is actually capable of doing is telling you when that group routine breaks the boundary and therefore may show signs of stress to the entire herd. And again, for nutritional purposes, at times of change, if you imagine after calving, typically a lot of animals will be asked to change their diet straight away, go to the field, eat grass, move away from a high fibre content silage diet onto fresh spring grazing. And while this is good for them, some of them may not take to that as well as we hope. And this is a way for you to monitor your group changes with that. We can see here in the middle of the screen, I've added a screenshot that's taken from the variability graph within SenseHub. So it's showing our 10-day average on our group consistency and our 10-day average rumination. At the very bottom, you can see that variability in rumination, which is indicated in the purple. We can see there that it's going up to as much as 100 minutes per day of variability within that group. And if it were to hit that red boundary of maybe 120 to 150, that would be a cause for concern. You can see also on the right-hand side of the screen here that this is available on the phone app as well. So moving on now to the troubleshooting area. First and foremost, I would always recommend to check your internet connection at the source. Some of you may not be familiar with the equipment that you actually have installed and what's making SenseHub work, but basically in the center of my screen, we can see our power supply, our PoE, and on the left, our SenseHub controller. Now, typically on your SenseHub controller, if you look at the underside of it, you'll see a solid green light in the center, which indicates power. On the left-hand side, there will be another green LED, and that will usually flash and twinkle. And this is normal, and that's what we wish to see. So first and foremost, I would recommend, if you can't get online with SenseHub, double check that there is actually internet presented at that source, at the router that it's connected to. You can connect a phone to this via Wi-Fi and see, can you get onto Google, can you surf the web, or indeed connect a laptop with a cable. If you can confirm that internet is there, generally to restart SenseHub, switch it off at the plug and switch it back on. Once you do this, you're actually restarting the computer internally in your controller. So you need to wait at least 10 to 15 minutes before you try to log in again. Otherwise, you probably go in too early. If remote support is required, it's mandatory to have a Windows laptop PC connected to that network. TeamViewer must be installed and left open and running. Now you can see here on the bottom right hand side of my screen, this is an example of what TeamViewer will show you. Basically, when you open up this profile, you will have an ID number and a password, and it is these details, when shared with myself, we can support you remotely. If we aren't able to fix your issue, we also have our wider support team, and through them to global. So you're very well covered and you're well supported, and don't be afraid to make some contact if you need help. Always check your power supply, make sure the cables are plugged in securely, and again, make contact if you can't get in. So your SenseHub support, this is available on a couple of different platforms, I suppose. Within SenseHub, we have a light bulb icon that's shown on the far left-hand side, alongside the cog, the gear wheel, and the farm icon that we mentioned before. If we select that and scroll down, you have an option to choose SenseHub Academy. If you visit the Academy, there are tutorials available, and if you watch those, they're presented in a PowerPoint format, and you just work your way through those, and they will give you an introduction to SenseHub. They will show you how to add events. They will show a lot of different things that may be of interest to you. So if you are stuck with something simple, there is a training platform built into your system that you can access at any time from your PC platform. If you are able to log in and you have an issue, there's also a contact us button down beside the language on the bottom right, where you can put in your issue, your name, your email address, and that will come directly to myself, to my colleague Catherine, and our wider support team. So don't be afraid to make contact this way if you have any questions. Thank you very much for listening, folks. I hope that was an advantage for you.